everyone, welcome to episode 288, Self-Love 101. Welcome to the Harmony in the Home podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Hutchison. I'm a counselor, a life coach, and most importantly, an imperfect mom doing this work right along with you. And my goal on our podcast is to go from chaos to calm, feel less frazzled, and have more fun within your four walls to have more harmony in your home. So, I always told my students, hi there. I always told my students, sometimes I just jump right in instead of acknowledging that you guys are here and I love you dearly. And I'm so thankful for you. And I love how you're sharing the podcast and giving me feedback of what you want to hear more of. And I've been doing some local talks and I got a lot of feedback that this was very helpful talking about self-love. So I wanted to talk to you about self-love and 101 self-love and not go super deep dive because it can be kind of overwhelming. And we think that self-love is bubble baths and massages. And yes, that's wonderful. But a lot of times it's keeping promises to yourself and things like that. So we're going to take a deeper dive. And before we start, I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Herbal Face Food, who I've talked about so many times over the last couple of months, if not years. And if you have rosacea, if you have wrinkles, if you have uneven skin tones, eczema, whatever you have, I guarantee that Herbal Face Food can help you. It's all natural and it's fabulous. And guess what? We have a coupon code. So go to herbalfacefood.com, type in or get whichever you want, and then at checkout, use the coupon code HARMONY20 for 20% off your first order. How fun is that? That we have a coupon code. We are legit, people. Too legit to quit. So I am a huge believer in love languages. And a lot of times people take the quiz, the love language quiz, and they find out their love language, and then they want to shout it from the rooftops and tell everybody in their four walls and beyond and everyone in their Saturn what their love language is so they can now fill up their love cup. And then they can fulfill their needs. And that is not what the love language quizzes are for. The love language quiz is to find out what your love language is for yourself, and then find out the love language of the people around you within your four walls and beyond. Because then you can be intentional with making deposits into their love cup during calm waters as a proactive way of engaging in whatever relationship you're in. I am telling you, this works on coworkers, on spouses, on kids, on puppies, on doggies, on cats. It works on all the humans. Because a lot of times we give in the way that we feel loved the most. And that is sometimes how we misfire. It's not very common that two people in a relationship have the same exact love language. So just to review, the love languages are acts of service, physical touch, quality time, gift giving, and words of affirmation. So what happens is if you are in a relationship with someone who is an acts of service person, where that's where they feel the most loved, and you're a words of affirmation person where that's the way you feel most loved, what's going to happen is you are going to give compliments and words of affirmation to your loved one. And it feels good to love in that way because that's how you feel loved. So it feels very natural to you. But what happens if that's not their love language, you'll still make a deposit. It just won't be as big as a deposit as you think it would be because you're just projecting how you feel loved onto other people and expecting that they will receive it the same amount that you would if you were receiving on the receiving end of those words of affirmation. So if you have little kids and you want to know what their love language is, obviously they can't take the quiz. Look at how they give it. Are they constantly hugging you and touching you and want to be with you? That could be a mix between quality time and physical touch. That's really good to know because then when you're reassuring them, when you're filling up their love cup, you can be intentional in doing it in the way that they feel loved. So for example, I am words of affirmation. So I love when for my 50th birthday, they went around the table, my family, and they said all the reasons why they love me. And I was bawling my eyeballs out. If I had contacts, my contacts would have fallen out. Now, if I was to do that same thing to the people in my four walls, they'd be like, oh my gosh, stop. That's so embarrassing. That's so cringe. Stop. No, too much attention, too much spotlight. They don't like it. They don't feel loved. They might feel a little loved and it might feel good, but it's not a huge, they're not going to cry about it. That's for sure. Grady was at a baseball game and he's starting to umpire, and he said over the announcing, they said it was like the final match, or they were in the playoffs, the team that he was umpiring. And he said on the speaker, they said, I just think we should take a moment to thank all the umpires in the fields, all the different fields. There was like 7 or 8 fields going on at once. And Grady said he wanted to literally crawl in a hole. He wanted to dig a hole. His face was turning bright red. And meanwhile, it wasn't like they said his name. They just mentioned all of the umpires, which probably were like, I don't know, 10 to 15 umpires. But he made a note to tell us that later on in the day, how embarrassed he was and how he wanted to crawl into a hole because he was getting acknowledged and getting attention. So that's really good information to know, that I don't need to be showering him and telling him, and I still do, and I'm still going to make a deposit, but instead of I think I'm making a $50 deposit, but instead I'm probably making a $5 deposit. So you really want to be intentional with how you're making deposits with the people within your 4 walls. I find that when you do this, it's a very good way of being proactive in your relationships. So when touchy, stressful moments come up, you're not at each other's throats so quickly. Now, how is this talk about self-love? So self-love is, we expect the people around us to fill up our love cup the way that we need them to and want them to. The problem is they don't ever do it because they're doing it wrong. They're doing it differently. They're doing it in the way that they feel loved, but not the way that we feel loved. So there's misfiring, and they're trying to make deposits, but it's a $5 deposit versus a $50 deposit. They think they're making a $50 deposit, but it's only a $5 deposit because they might not understand love languages. They have egos. So they're loving you in the way that they feel loved, whether it's physical touch or words of affirmation, gift giving, quality time. So that feels very natural to them. So that's the way they're giving it. And I feel like this is the biggest misunderstanding in relationships, because we say unconsciously, our ego says, well, they're not giving me words of affirmation, and because they're not doing that, that must mean that they don't love me. I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy. Our default pattern for our ego is always to go to not good enough. If they loved me, then they would love me in this way. We pass out unconscious manuals to everybody in our 4 walls and beyond. And then when they don't do the thing, because they never do, just like we don't do the thing, because we don't ever do, then we make it mean something about our worthiness and our value. That is where friction starts. That's where resentment comes up. That's when the slow drift happens. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. What's cool about knowing other people's love languages is when they are expressing it in the way that they feel loved, whatever their love language is, you can actually make a deposit without them even knowing about it. So if your loved one is acts of service and they are mowing the lawn, you can make a deposit into your own love cup that they are showing love right now by mowing the lawn, because you know that that's their love language. So the love language quiz is really good intel to have for other people, not so much for you to have for yourself to tell all the people. The reason why it's also good for you to know your own and know the people around you is because once you know your own, then you can make your own deposits in your own love cup. Being in a relationship is an inside job. We cannot give the responsibility of our worthiness and our value to other people. It will fall flat. It's a lose-lose situation. Just like I don't want anybody in my 4 walls or beyond to give me that job of filling up their love cup and being the only one filling up the love cup. It's kind of like being in a marriage and you're both contributing income to the bank account, or you have an agreement that one of you is going to work full-time to buy the baby shoes while the other one stays home and does house management, child management, food management, all the things. It's so much work, whether you're both working or one's working part-time. But if you have one person who's working full-time, busting their butt to pay for the baby shoes, because baby needs shoes, and the other one's sitting on the couch in the basement playing video games, that doesn't feel very fun. That doesn't feel very equal. That is a lose-lose situation. And that's what happens when we give the responsibility to someone else to fill up our love cup. And then we say, oh, they're not doing it right. They're doing it wrong. And so we're misfiring and we're missing out on all these different deposits that they're trying to do, but they might not know any better, or it just feels more natural for them based on how they were raised. Or if it's your kids, they're just trying to figure out this world and their egos are developing and forming. So the self-love image that I shared in many of my talks was very popular because it's always an inside job of filling up our own love cup. And anything everybody else does is extra credit. Because we can't look for other people for our worthiness and our value baton. We have to give that to ourselves. We have to know that within ourselves, and then we project that onto people around us. So if you want a copy of this, I can send you a copy. It says, what's your self-love language? So if your physical touch, things that make your body feel good or focus on your physical being, like massages, soft blankets, physical activity, spa days, skincare routine, swimming, stretching. Those are just some examples of how you can fill up your own love cup when you know what your love language is. If your love language is acts of service, then it could be, and they give examples, this is just one of 100 different examples, doing or arranging things for yourself that make you feel good, therapy, acts of kindness, doing random acts of kindness, scheduling, cleaning, delegating, decluttering, going out. Those are all ways to spend doing acts of service for yourself, to fill up your own cup and to make yourself feel proud. Because once we step into an emotional adulthood, we're not little kids and trapped in grown-up bodies. Mommy and daddy are not coming to help us and save us. We are the grown people now. We have to remember that. But our ego always wants to go to emotional childhood and put our mommy and daddy issues onto the people in our four walls and beyond. And that is a lose-lose. If gift giving is your love language, they say treat yourself by purchasing things that make you happy. Trips, craft supplies, comfy clothes, little gifts, indulgences, investing in yourself. It could be going to Walgreens and getting Tic Tacs. I love the fruit flavored Tic Tacs. If quality time is your love language, spending time alone is so important. Getting a hobby, doing things that you love, meditation, hobbies, getting creative, having creative time, walking yourself on dates. Sounds like you're walking the dog. Relaxing. Now, when we talk about time management and time blocking, I always tell you to build in rest time first and build in your downtime first. So then your brain will be more apt to do the thing that it doesn't want to do during the unfun times. But if you have these blocked into your schedule, life won't feel so overwhelming and burnout will not happen so frequently. If words of affirmation is your love language, this is when you need to look at your self-talk. How are you talking to yourself? Now, we're not always going to be positive rainbows and daisies talking about ourselves, but what if we shoot for 50-50? What if we shoot for 80% talking nice to ourselves and then 20% we can rip ourselves a new one? Because we're still going to be hard on ourselves, but we can't get to the next level by being hard on ourselves. If we could, then everybody be on the next level. They give examples of giving yourself pep talks and encouraging yourself, positive self-talk, daily affirmations, journaling, mantras. I'm a big fan of mantras because it just helps your brain when it goes off the track, it just goes haywire. It just gives your brain a chance to wait a second. No. We're going to go back to the mantra of this too shall pass, or I can do hard things, or this is part of the 50-50, or this is part of the human experience. Those are just some random mantras that I say to myself 100 times a day. And you're always going to have the junk thoughts. Now, I'm really trying to get my email so I don't get so much junk mail. But no matter how hard I try, I still get junk mail. Just like you're always going to have junk thoughts. So don't be mad that you're having junk thoughts. Just know that's part of the human experience and just be very curious oh my goodness, look at how I'm ripping myself. Look at how I'm so hard on myself. I wonder where that comes from. Is that from mom? Is that from dad? Is that from me? Is that from spouse? Is that from kids? Is that from internally? Where's it coming from? Whoa. And then you just get super curious and you just question all of your thoughts. But no matter how hard I try to get rid of the junk mail, I delete it. I report it as spam. I don't open it so they don't think there's been a click. I've tried all the things. I unsubscribe. I do all the right things. But guess what? I wake up in the morning, there's still more junk mail. And there will always be junk thoughts. Don't be mad about the junk thoughts. So if you need a copy of the quiz or you need a copy of this image that I've been reading, then you can go to Self-Love for Love Languages. And there's lots of different images that you can look at. And just hang that up somewhere so you remind yourself that that is your responsibility to fill up your love cup. We cannot go to other people all needy and graspy, expecting them to do something that they're having a hard time doing for themselves anyway. So we give it to ourselves, we fill up our own love cup, and then anything else we get out after that is extra credit. And once we know the love languages of the people around us, then it gets super fun because you can be intentional the way with it you're loving them, to be proactive in the relationship. So you're building up a savings account, so to speak. And then when conflict comes up, which it will, you have stuff in the bank, so to speak, to pull from. And it's not turning into this rip-roaring argument because someone didn't pick up the milk on the way home. You'll still be mad about XYZ. They'll still be mad about XYZ. And that's okay because there's so much built in the tank. You're not living paycheck to paycheck emotionally in your relationship, not feeling fried. And then what's really cool is you can make intentional deposits in your own love cup for the people around you because you know how they feel loved. And so you're making deposits against their will. They don't even know about it. Behind their back, you're doing it. So find out your love language if you don't know already. And then make sure you're making intentional deposits for yourself as well. Yes, it's good to do it to other people, but you have to do it to yourself first. And then you project all that goodness and love onto other people. And then guess what will happen? You'll have much more harmony in the home. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Hey mamas, thanks for listening. If you had any ahas, clicks, or those lightning bolt moments while listening, you have to check out my free parenting bootcamp, where we take all of this to the next level and we try to create even more awakenings for ourselves so that we can connect more with our kids and never yell at them again. You can sign up at www.coachingkelly.com. And if you really want to fill up my love cup, send me an email of what your aha was, what your click was, what was that lightning bolt moment while you were listening. I want nothing more in life than for you to have harmony in your home and to learn how to be an imperfect mom like me, which allows your kids to be imperfect too, each and every day. Thanks for listening.